Stop me if you've heard this one before. Black Adam, Daphne, and Stifler walk into a dystopian nightmare version of LA while that guy from NSYNC is lip-syncing a Killer song and no one knows exactly what the heck is going on. The punchline is that we get to go through this film and find out if Southland Tales is not that bad. Welcome one and all to It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A grades and B movies and a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Hello to all of our listeners in Dundas, Ontario, and around the world. How are you guys doing? Happy 2025. We're going to be kicking this one off with one hell of a bang because we're talking about a film that I don't know if I could easily describe. I could not do an elevator pitch for this film. I could not describe this film in like 30 seconds because we're talking about Southland Tales. But hopefully, I've brought in a ringer who can do the elevator pitch. Sean Faust is back on the show. Sean, how you doing, man?
I am psyched to talk about this movie. I watched it the other day for the first time in years, and you want that? It's probably a less than 30-second pitch. Think Strange Days, the collapse of society. Humanity is just imploding on itself. We've already had a nuclear war. So we've got the Strange Days, post-Strange Days, meets some of that Donnie Darko weirdness with a bit of some kind of random multiverse thrown in. And this is Southland Tales.
So we're in for a lively, upbeat discussion. Okay, good. It's a happy movie, apparently, that we're starting our year off with.
I mean, society collapsing on itself, humanity just being done with itself. It's what's new.
I was about to say, like, there's going to be a lot, I think, that we talk about in this film. Now, keep in mind that this film came out a while ago, but there's things in this film where you're like, But we'll get into that a little bit later. But before we do, because I talked about the elevator pitch, and the best way to do the elevator pitch on this show is to trailerize it.
From the mind behind Donnie Darko comes a film that will have you scratching your head even more. Starring a cast that makes you wonder if they were either selected through a random draft or some Hunger Games type ceremony. Enter the world of Southland Tales, a film listed as a dystopian black comedy. Well, one of the three ain't bad. The year is 2008. An election is being fought in the swing states. One side is fighting for personal freedom from an overreaching government led by an independent influencer with their own show and merch line. On the other side is a strict authoritarian, looking to shield his own family's embarrassing circumstances from the public eye, all while being backed by some maniac pushing self-driving cars fueled by alternative energy sources who's clearly looking for more power. I'm starting to think it wasn't the characters in the film who time traveled. Richard Kelly, did you travel back to 2006 from 2024 trying to warn us of what was to come? Because it kind of sounds like you did. Dwayne Johnson, Sean William Scott, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Justin Timberlake star in Southland Tales. Rated R for random glimpses of the future.
There is so freaking much in this film, and I'm sitting there going, whoa. This came out in like 2006, right? Because there's a whole lot of 2024 feel in this one. Like, going back and watching this, are you sitting there going, I feel like I'm watching this today? Not just the film, but life.
I mean, this and Mike Judge recently said that I didn't realize I made a documentary when I made Idiocracy. Although the first time I saw Idiocracy, somebody bought it for me for Christmas, I guess whenever it first came out on DVD. And that first 10 minutes, I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Is this a comedy? Or am I watching like them predicting the future or something? So nice for them to come around on that. Southland Tales, I didn't see that coming. And I should have paid attention.
I mean, people have been saying that The Simpsons have been predicting the future for years. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I present to you Richard Kelly's presentation of Southland Tales as a near 18-year prophetic look at what the future may have been like, minus the nuclear war.
I got to point out that the old lady in the beginning, when they're shooting in Texas, that shoots the water gun. Oh, I didn't realize they had water in it. First of all, what? It's a water. But her performance was just so natural and like that sweet granny type that either she's an extra that like really should be on her way up, or it was just she really didn't think it had water in it because it was a prop. And that was just her natural reaction. But whatever it is, I found that kind of endearing.
In a weird kind of psychotic kind of way. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into who is in this film. The movie stars Dwayne Johnson, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Sean William Scott, Mandy Moore, Justin Timberlake, Wallace Shawn, Miranda Richardson, Nora Dunn, John Larroquette, Kevin Smith, and a whole ton more. Like, I could sit here and read you the entire cast listing of this film, and we would be here for about 20 minutes. But I am going to take a moment here because there's an almost starring for this film. In the role of Kristen Now, under consideration were Tara Reid, Jennifer Love Hewitt, and Jessica Biel. Now, just listening to those three names, this, of course, is the role that Sarah Michelle Gellar played. Can you consider any of those three actresses in the role of Kristen Now?
Jessica Biel is probably the only one that I could accept from that list. Because she's not a bad actress at all, man.
No.
But I mean, you know, Sarah Michelle Gellar just really nailed it.
Yeah, no, it's hard to top what she did in this film. In the role of Fortunia Balducci, as played by Will Sasso, Artie Lang had to walk away from the role due to prior commitments. In the role of Vaughn Smallhouse, as played by John Larroquette, apparently Richard Kelly tried to get Rick Moranis to do it, but he decided to not step out of retirement. I don't know if I could picture Rick Moranis in this role. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Rick Moranis, and Rick Moranis can do no wrong. But there's something about John Larroquette in this that's just so good.
It's the Southern accent, and also John Larroquette is just a great actor.
Right? You cannot go wrong with Dan Fielding. And if you've watched Night Court, you know exactly what I'm talking about now.
I was going to go with the Boston legal route, but yes, of course, Dan Fielding.
No, Dan Fielding, yes. In the role of Walter Mung, as played by Christopher Lambert, this is the gun dealer in the ice cream truck. Apparently, Richard Kelly had asked Oliver Stone to play that part, and strangely, I can see that. But also offered parts, and it didn't say which parts they were offered, but Jason Lee, Tim Blake Nelson, and Ali Larter were also offered parts for this film. It was written and directed by Richard Kelly, of course, of Donnie Darko fame. And this film got some accolades. At the 2006 Cannes, it was in the running for the Palme d'Or, but lost to The Wind That Shakes the Barley. At the 2008 Scream Awards, it was nominated for Best Sci-Fi Film, lost to Iron Man. Well, no shit. And Dwayne Johnson was nominated for Best Sci-Fi Actor, lost to Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man. Well, no shit. At the 2007 Village Voice Film Poll, this film tied for Worst Film of the Year with The Bucket List. And you know what? I mean, here's the thing. I liked The Bucket List.
Whose childhood sucked so bad that they didn't like The Bucket List?
Right?
That's such a sweet movie.
I mean, I can understand people maybe voting this for worst film because there's a lot to wrap your head around with this film. I'm not going to, beat around the bush, but The Bucket List?
That's such a sweet movie. That's not a bad movie at all.
I mean, clearly these are the same people who did not go to the box office because the film had a budget of $17 million. Worldwide, it had a box office of $374,743 only. Now, here's the thing. It was only released domestically in 63 theaters, ranking 33rd on the list of releases that week. But just to add a little bit more, the film had a 2024 re-release in Australia. It made a grand total of $12. That's it. That was like what, one person going to the theater?
I'm guessing it's one, because in my head I just got Billy Crystal going, one guy, one guy.
You know, you laugh, but I have been to a theater where there was only my grandfather and myself, and that was it. They shut down the candy store because of that. They're like, yeah, there's no one here.
Dude, when after Endgame came out, the local major chain theater here, I won't name them because their service sucks, but they did a thing where they would show every Marvel movie starting from Iron Man on. So I went to a screening of Iron Man. I was the only person in an IMAX screening of Iron Man.
What?
Yeah.
How?
Keep in mind, I mean, I had the thing where I could go to a few movies a week if I wanted to, and it was covered each month. I don't like the company, therefore I just won't name them. It's got nothing to do with endorsements and stuff like that. But I went, and I was like, oh, cool. And, you know, I wanted to go and see, God damn it, my favorite one, The Winter Soldier. I was like, oh, I was going to see The Winter Soldier. I'm going to see Iron Man. This is going to be so cool. I'm going to see Infinity War again. I'm going to see Endgame again. But most people are thinking, well, I own this movie, and I just saw Endgame 17 times, and I can't afford to see a movie I own. That's the only explanation I can think of.
Yeah.
Because it was the first Iron Man movie in IMAX, and I was the only one there.
I mean, I remember going to see like the Harry Potter films, all 8 of them in a row over 8 weeks as they returned to theaters. That was fun because you saw the crowds get bigger and bigger as it went on. People were realizing what was going on. But only $12. I mean, I get it. It's not a big name film. This isn't like we're talking like Iron Man or Harry Potter. It's Southland Tales. So maybe be thankful that I got the $12. But the reason why we are here, and not just because Sean has some really cool taste in films, is the critics. Over at Rotten Tomatoes, this film has a tomatometer and a popcorn meter, both equaling 41%. Over at Metacritic, the film has a Metascore of 44. At IMDb, it sits at 5.3 out of 10 stars. At Letterboxd, it's got an even 3 stars for a 60% score. And over at the movie database, it sits at 51%, giving this film an aggravated aggregate of 48.3%. So, Sean, before we get into this, I'm going to toss this to you. 48.3, is that way too low, or are we near the mark that you think this film should be getting?
No, it's way too low. Here's the problem. People don't want to read subtitles, and they don't want to think. They just want to turn off their brains and be entertained. That's not a bad thing every now and then, but know what you're getting into. Or, that thing about expectations. Oh, The Rock is in this. Oh, it's going to be funny. He's going to beat people up. Why is The Rock actually acting? There's so many reasons. Now, I'm not saying if you don't like this movie, you're stupid, but I'm not saying that either.
I mean, it's got to be a real special film, I think, for people to go in to want to read the film. Godzilla -1 definitely brought people in, and I was very, very happy that we got the actual Japanese subtitled, no overdubs in the theaters, because that film, I mean, that's just pure cinema. That was like...
I hate watching foreign film. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
That's okay. It's okay. But it's one of those things where you got to love your Godzilla, but this was, I think, more than just a Godzilla film. This was like pure cinema.
I hate watching a foreign film with American dub. It just makes... The Raid with the American dub is terrible. The Raid 2 is even worse. Ip Man is such a beautiful movie. Just the first one. We didn't need the other 17 that followed. I even told my wife after I watched Ip Man, I'm like, I'm not watching the sequel. This movie is just too beautiful, and it's just going to be a stupid action flick. And I ended up having a copy by accident of Ip Man 2, and I got about a half hour into it. I'm like, yep, just as I predicted, this is a stupid action movie. But my point being, I want to read the screen. The only time it really worked for me is because I never saw it originally was Squid Game, but I thought the overdubbing on that was over the top on purpose. But yeah, but it's what's wrong with adding a little thought into a movie?
That's the thing. You take away from the actual performance from the actors in the screen or on the screen when you go see an overdub. And I'm not saying that, they're bad voice actors, because in some cases they do a damn good job of trying to convey the tone. And I know that when you watch it enough, or at least you watch something for enough time, your brain starts to put the words to the mouth moving. And it's one of those things where you don't even really notice it after a while, but it does take away from the original actors. I had to look this up since we were talking about this. Ip Man, the first one from 2008, 86% tomatometer. So no, we don't have to talk about it. Ip Man 2 has a tomatometer of 97%. So you're safe from rewatching it. In fact, there is not a single Ip Man film that qualifies for It's Not That Bad.
Because the choreography is beautiful. And Donnie Yen is phenomenal in the role. It's just that first one, yeah, it's an action movie, but there's so much more substance to it. And the second one it was everything that the first one was, minus the substance. I gave up.
I mean, I remember catching, I think it was Master Z Ip Man Legacy on television when I was on vacation one time, and I'm like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's got Dave Bautista. Oh, what the hell am I watching? And I just looked it up. 92% tomatometer, but a 49% popcorn meter. So the audience really turned on that one. So that might be an interesting one where we take a movie based on the popcorn meter, because it is such an outlier. I'd be very curious to go down that road. But we're about to go down this Southland Tales road here and get back on track here before we diatribe even more and just start talking about awesome films.
And GoBots.
It's on the whiteboard, right? It's on the whiteboard. Although that being said, you might be saved because my lovely wife, Carrie, has said, yeah, I'll cover that film.
Oh, bless her. Bless a million blessings upon thee. A million. And a million times a million squared by a million, and then with a Googleplex. Thank you. Thank you. Blessings upon you and your family.
Just know that when that episode does get recorded, she will have her GoBot of Spacey sitting on the table while we record.
I had that one too, but I had the smaller version. It was like, the size of an action figure. It wasn't like the... Yeah. No, it's... if you can find the GoBots out there, good luck to you guys. But, there weren't some bad ones. The name... I have their command center thing. It's like a spaceship that becomes a robot itself. I still have that.
That was cool. I remember that being cool. Okay, we're diatribing again here. Let's get back to
yeah. So, Mask! Not Mask, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. We're not doing Mask. Although they ever do a Mask film, yes, please do. But anyways,
they kind of did.
Fast and Furious.
John Cena in Bumblebee is a member of Mask. He's not Matt Tracker, but he is a member of Mask.
See, now I have to go back and watch that. Don't
Bumblebee is it's sweet. It's like it's E.T. with more saccharin and less crime.
Yes, and Haley Steinfeld did make me actually care about a human in a Transformers film. So
it's the only Transformers movie besides the original cartoon where I can be like, watch that.
Yeah.
I remember halfway through the movie in the theater, I'm like, man, my teeth are hurting. This is so sweet.
Yeah. Oh, and Transformers 1. Go watch Transformers 1 because that's good too. But back to Southland Tales. Dwayne Johnson as Boxer Santaros or Jericho Kane. By the way, spoilers like a mofo for this episode. So if you have not watched Southland Tales, I don't know whether you're welcome or you should pause the show and go watch the film. Either way.
Pause the show, go watch it. Pause the show, go watch it. Continue. I'm just giving subliminal. Pause the show and go watch it. Pause the show and go watch it.
Your thoughts on Boxer Santaros?
Jericho Kane is about to make your dreams come true. I think his performance in this movie is unlike anything I've ever seen him do ever besides this. Except for Saturday Night Live when he was they were doing the wrestling things, the promos where like they have to like talk shit about each other, and he's like, "This guy's got herpes." I'll send you the link. It's really really funny. But it's like The Rock is usually The Rock in a movie, or Dwayne Johnson is usually Dwayne Johnson in a movie, starting from the time he was a CGI Scorpion. Which, that's not a problem. There's nothing wrong with that. In this, though, he really steps out of his comfort zone, and he takes on something he's never done before, and his face work, his reaction work is just so goddamn good in this. So yeah, I liked him. What did you think?
I mean, I completely agree. As far as he's actually acting in this. And yeah, the whole reason I think why a lot of Dwayne Johnson's films as of late have kind of, for lack of a better term, hit the shitter when it came to the box office is because...
Don't you make fun of Hobbs. You leave Hobbs out of this, man.
I'm thinking Black Adam. I'm thinking Red One. I'm thinking movies where he's basically Dwayne Johnsoning all over the place. Yes, Jumanji did well, both films that he was in, but it's also the bigger cast in that section. And Jumanji definitely brings with it a vibrancy, and it's a beloved franchise. And his persona worked because it was a video game avatar, and it made sense. I think the only other time that I've seen Dwayne Johnson not try to be bigger than life on the screen was when he was part of the ensemble in Be Cool, because he realized that it's not his film. It's not supposed to be his film, but his comedic moments and self-deprecating, comedic moments kind of helped him steal the show a little bit, along with him and Andre 3000. That was a fantastic film. Here, you're right. This is legit attempt at dramatic acting and getting outside of that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock persona, except for one moment.
This is his Copland.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen Copland? Stallone is so good in that, he pisses me off for every other movie he's ever made. Except he's also really that good in Creed and the First Blood.
Yeah.
But other than that, he was like, he was Stallone earning his paycheck. Nothing wrong. I'm not saying he's terrible, but Stallone in Copland, and it's still better than Dwayne Johnson in this, but it's the same thing. Like, dude, just take more roles like that.
Yeah. This is Schwarzenegger in Maggie. That's basically what it is. It's a dramatic freaking role.
Wow. What a call.
Right? By someone who is traditionally known as a dramatic actor. Dave Bautista has done a fantastic job lately of getting out of those big muscle action roles, even though he's just fun as hell as Drax. But Dave Bautista is acting these days, and it's great. Dwayne Johnson knows that he can't act. He just chooses to do these The Rock-esque kind of roles. So when you watch him in this, you're getting something you're not necessarily expecting. His performance is good. It's really good. Even down to the little things where he's constantly tapping his fingers, almost like a nervous tick kind of thing. It's Richard Kelly got him to do something that he's not known for doing, and that's being somebody else.
But he's just so charming and he's personable. So I understand why he's a star. It makes perfect sense. But man, dude, Dwayne, just please listen to me. Please do more roles like this too, all right? Take on like another kind of Maggie role or a Copland, something like this, something like Boxer Santoro. Please, I'm begging you, brother.
He can do it if he
so
chooses to do it. That's the thing. He's got to work for a different director, and he's got to not have it be his production company, I think. He needs to put his trust in someone else. Like if a Denis Villeneuve rolls by and says, I have a role for you, but you have to do what I tell you. Dwayne, listen to him. He'll steer you right.
No kidding. I mean, look at 2049 and the Dune movies for Bautista.
Right? Absolutely. The 2049 was so good.
He was excellent in that. And also Drax, I loved him as Drax, and I think that was his first acting role.
Well, think about it too. Denis Villeneuve made Jared Leto tolerable in Blade Runner 2049.
Dallas Buyers Club. That's all I have to say. Jared Leto's phenomenal in that. Actually, Jared Leto's not even in that. He channels his character.
Fair. He's hit and miss, I think, with his roles. Some are good, some are not. Sean William Scott, who played Ronald/Roland Taverner, and I probably just messed up that name, but still, we're here. Me, idiot, basement, microphone. You know what you came for. Your thoughts on Stifler in this?
If you haven't watched the movie yet, you should really watch it. Sean William Scott, Sean with two N's, by the way, I'd like to point out. First of all, I got to point out, he had already done the rundown with Dwayne Johnson a couple years earlier.
Yes.
So they already kind of had a rapport, and that shows in this movie, and they're both taking on a completely different style of acting than or type of role than they've ever done before. I mean, Sean William Scott almost stepped out of it doing Bulletproof Monk, but the less said about that, the better. But they already had a rapport, and I really like his performance in this, especially at the end. Like, the acting along him, aside himself scenes are great. Or him with anybody that he's working with in that film.
Yeah. I mean, I know Richard Kelly picked actors for the roles to get them out of typecast. He wanted you to go in and get something different than what you're expecting. You know, kind of like the anti-Christopher Walken at this point, because everything Christopher Walken does feels like it's written for Christopher Walken. It's the Gary Sinise syndrome. Sean William Scott in this provides a in-depth, serious, not funny at all, strong role. And you don't expect it from him. And I don't see why he doesn't do it more. It's again, same thing like Dwayne Johnson. Take on roles where you have some meat to the role rather than just dick and fart jokes.
Yeah, but when he came back for American Reunion, he put on that old pair of shoes and nailed Stifler once again. But yeah, he's good at stuff. I haven't seen the season of Lethal Weapon with him yet, but I actually really do want to see it. I like that they made Lorna Cole, I don't know what his first name is now, but when he wants to step out, he's good at it. And in this movie, he's good.
I think it's one of those things where after a while, and yes, Sean William Scott was the go-to comedy guy for a good stretch, and rightfully so, but there's almost a trepidation, right? Because how many times have you gone to see a film with an actor that is traditionally known for one genre film? You know, the rom-com actress then all of a sudden does something completely out of the ordinary, or the comedic actor, or the sci-fi actor all of a sudden jumping into a rom-com. Like if they're known for it and you expect it and you get something different, I don't want to say the average moviegoer, but someone who's going in there, you know, you see someone and you expect a type of performance. And if you're not ready for it, it can be jarring.
That's why Spanglish failed. Adam Sandler wanted to do something that wasn't his usual comedy. People went in going, oh, Adam Sandler, it's going to be an Adam Sandler movie. And it failed just based on that. I mean, it was a cute movie. It was nice, but like everybody slammed it because it wasn't what they wanted it to be. And that's why Click has such a downer. Fine, I'm going to give you the movie you want from me, but I'm also going to give you the movie I want to make at the same time. Click is not the greatest movie, but that last half hour of Click is phenomenal.
But this is also why Punch Drunk Love failed, because it was Adam Sandler not in a comedic role, and it kind of almost derailed P.T. Anderson on the stretch that he had, because, you know, you go from Boogie Nights to Magnolia to Punch Drunk Love, and I will even admit that Punch Drunk Love, I don't even know if it qualifies. I don't want to touch that film because I wasn't a fan of the film.
I love Paul Thomas Anderson movies. Boogie Nights is one of my favorite films of all time. There Will Be Blood, need I say more? And I really do enjoy Punch Drunk Love. But I also knew what I was getting into when I went into it.
Yeah.
And I think therein is where it lies. I think every performance in that's great, but we're not talking about that. If you have not seen Southland Tales, go watch Southland Tales.
But yeah, like, make sure if you are going to watch this film, be prepared, because Dwayne Johnson is not Dwayne Johnson in this. Sean William Scott is not Sean William Scott in this. And Sarah Michelle Gellar is not Sarah Michelle Gellar in this. Although you could sit there and all of a sudden understand why Cruel Intentions worked as well. Sarah Michelle Gellar as Krista Now, your thoughts?
she's a consistently good actor to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and I said actor because it's a universal term.
Yeah.
And she's consistently great, but I think this might be my favorite role of hers because she just embodies it. And you know that she's not Kristen now at all.
No.
You know that this is a very well-spoken, intelligent woman, and everything that comes out of Kristen Now's mouth is pure gold because of her performance. Even facial expressions she makes too. Just fantastic. I love her in this. She's not my MVP, but she's probably the top of my list for this.
Yeah, I mean, this is shortly after, like the 2 Scooby-Doo films where she absolutely nailed Daphne. I mean, those movies just nailed the Scooby-Doo crew to begin with. But it's also between the Grudge films. So she's kind of branching out a little bit there too. So the interesting thing though is that you take a look at a character like Kristen Now, and for this film to be set in 2008, and it really kind of almost predates what podcasters and YouTubers and the like would become. Like you take a look at, and I hate to say it this way, you take a look at the Call Her Daddy podcast, Kristen Now would have done that. Absolutely. Kristen Now would have had probably one of the most listened to podcasts or YouTube channels if this was a real character. It's fascinating to see that Richard Kelly kind of almost prophesized what a content creator was going to become.
Oh, she's the first social media influencer.
Yeah. She is the template that seems to be everybody these days. Justin Timberlake as Pilot Albalin. I'm going to look to you with this one because I have thoughts on this character, but go ahead.
Oh, I want to defer to you on this. I like him as an actor. And I can't remember it was Alpha Dog where I was like, man, this dude's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What a great actor. And then I saw this and I was still pleased.
See, here's the thing. There have been a few films that we've talked about on this show, and every time I'm like, Justin Timberlake is really good. And I'm even including the Love Guru in that as Jacques Lecoq. But, I mean, you watch In Time. In Time is a fascinating sci-fi film. Freaking love that film.
I cannot do it because I know it's a heartbreaker.
But still, you have a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the problem here is that part of it is that when they did his lines on set, the tone that he was directed to use didn't fit. So he had to go back and redo some of his lines. So it looks like a bad overdub at times. And I know there's parts cut out of this film. It's got to be a much longer film.
There is a can cut. That's, I think, another half hour longer, something like that, or 20, whatever it is. It's out there, but the Blu-ray is $50.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where this is the one character that seems very central to the plot, but it seems that the character most chopped down. And that's not a good thing, because then you're sitting there going, why the hell is he doing a killer's lip sync video in the middle of this movie?
Because he's stoned. He took the drug. He injected it into his neck. So, like, that's how the drug affects him. I've got to defend that. Plus, all these things that I've done is one of my favorite killers, too.
Yeah. But the interesting thing, though, is that most of the heart of the story seems to be coming from the Pilot Albalin point of view. But because of his position out there, basically in the water with a gun sight eye view of everything that's happening at the beach, I feel like this film needed to be more from his point of view if it was going to be from his point of view to begin with. Because all of a sudden you have this character, all like Justin Timberlake is narrating. Let's see more of him witnessing these things, because from his perspective and that rifle sight, he can see so much. Let's see him looking at the other things. Let's touch base more with our narrator for the film, so we get that almost, narrated, someone basically writing the story of Southland, the tale, if you will.
Well, he's got a whale of a tale to tell you, lad. A whale of a tale or two. That's from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Which I'm sure that doesn't qualify.
Kirk Douglas. No, it does not qualify. No.
John Larroquette, who played Vaughn Smallhouse. This is the assistant/advisor to Senator Frost. Your thoughts?
I just love the guy. I didn't know he was in the movie until I was watching it. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I just finished my run of Boston Legal. So I was like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting him. This is going to be fun. He's so fun. And he's exactly what he was supposed to be in this movie.
Here's the interesting thing. He is more important and more intriguing and more interesting than the senator that he's the assistant. Honestly, the guy who plays Senator Frost, take him or leave him. Like,
no, because he's good, but like the whole thing is that he's really good because you see him break every time they're talking about Kristen now, or if he's holding an album or he's looking, you're like, oh yeah, teenage horniness is not a crime. And like, he's just so into Kristen now that he drops everything just to acknowledge her or to talk about her the second she's mentioned. So I'm going to have to defend him a bit because he does go from like boring do-nothing guy to, oh yeah, Kristen now, I love her so much.
But John Larroquette still makes Vaughn Smallhouse the more interesting character. That's the thing.
Of course.
Like,
absolutely. Absolutely.
The senator is a tad ineffectual and completely obsessed with, our Kristen Now influencer here. But yeah, it's one of those things where you want to see more John, because it's John Larroquette. Anytime he's on the screen, he's an absolute gem. People who watched Night Court, people who watched, you said Boston Legal, people who watched The Librarians, like every time he's on the screen,
Oh, don't forget Madhouse with Kirstie Alley.
Right?
No, I honestly though, forget Madhouse with Kirstie Alley. There was this time in the 80s where it's like, oh, this comedian actor wants to show that they can also dance, and like there's always a dance number that makes no sense and doesn't belong in the movie. Does not put.
I blame John Travolta.
No, because that made sense in the movies he was doing.
Very much so.
Except there was one where it didn't, and I'm not talking Pulp Fiction. I'm talking. It's the one where
he's the angel, right?
No, not Michael. Although I mean that's early '90s. That's post Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
That's mid '90s. No, it was one when he was like kind of like nobody before Pulp Fiction, and Russian spies like created an American city, and they like hired him and his friend to like go there. I can't remember what the movie is called. I'm gonna look that up while I say, please continue about how great John Larroquette is.
Well, I think I've already said how good John Larroquette is, but let's also talk about Miranda Richardson, who played Nana Mae Frost. Holy crap. Does this woman just bring a sense of like manic, almost psychotic authority to the screen in this? Like, you've heard about Big Brother. Here we've got the absolute version of Big Brother in this dystopian society. You have to think that this is definitely the power behind the Frosts. Your thoughts on Miranda Richardson?
She is addicted to all of those screens. I got to tell you that. Also, by the way, the movie I was speaking of is called The Experts, and it's got a 4.9 rating on the IMDb. But back to it doesn't even deserve that high. This woman is so addicted to her screens but she's also in tune with all of her screens. So this also predicted the fact that people don't want to get up and move around anymore. People just want to stare at a screen. And when they're done staring at a screen, you know what they do? They look down and what's their phone? Oh, it's another screen. And then they go downstairs or like to their entertainment room and they stare at another screen.
Yeah.
And this character predicts that just give us screens and we'll know everything. Even though she didn't know everything, obviously.
I mean, when you think about the time that this film was written and came out, too, U.S. Ident clearly is inspired by the whole idea of the Patriot Act, which was around that time. And of course, this predates The Dark Knight and, Batman using all of everyone's cell phone to try to find the Joker. So it's one of those things where it's of this time when unwanted surveillance of the citizenry is very much in the conversation. This is that manifestation of it.
Yeah, and you've got a gun turret at like the corner of almost every building.
Yeah, no, this film is scary in what a future that it tried to predict. And no one, like, you thought Civil War was bad, people? Go watch Southland Tales and try to envision how that would come about. Mandy Moore, who played Madeline Frost Santeros. So this is the wife of Boxer Santeros, even though he has amnesia, and she is the daughter of Senator and Nana Mae Frost. Your thoughts on Mandy Moore in this?
She was good. She's not bad or good because she's not in it enough to make that much of an impression. But her first scene, being the bratty daughter of politicians, she kind of nails it. And then her final scene is it kind of comes out of nowhere, and I don't see it coming. I don't understand why, but I loved the choreography of it.
Yeah. I mean, you could see her wanting to kind of break out of that rom-com kind of role with movies like License to Wed, like in A Walk to Remember. I mean, Saved was definitely one of those films that is kind of out there, and she's fantastic. And then, of course, she was in an ensemble cast in Romance and Cigarettes. Southland Tales is definitely a bit of a departure and allowed her to kind of go down that kind of not likable role. And that's not a bad thing, because you want to be able to break out and not just be, for lack of a better term, the pop princess turned actress, but she does a damn good job of being an actor as well. So I liked her in this, and you wanted someone, I think, in that role with a very rom-com-esque kind of persona, because of the idea for Richard Kelly is to take actors and completely 180 the typecast that they're in. At that point, you're looking maybe at, you could have put a Jennifer Love Hewitt in that role and it would have worked out well, because, you have to think about films. Yes, there was the I Know What You Did Last Summer films, but, a movie like Heartbreakers or Can't Hardly Wait, right? That kind of put Jennifer Love Hewitt on that kind of map. But I think Mandy Moore brought a much more, I don't want to say mature, but definitely a maturity in the immaturity that she portrayed. Like, she's clearly, high society and high maintenance at the same time. And I like the dichotomy that she brought to that.
I just wanted more. So, that's why I said I really couldn't have as much of an opinion about her performance as some of the other people. Yeah.
I mean, there's the one scene where they're on the airship and there's like the weird dance-off scene between her and Krista Now, and I'm like, what the is going on here? But it seems very weirdly choreographed.
It didn't seem like a dance-off either. It just seemed like she accepted, like, oh, you can be with my husband too. Like, it just, because at one point she gets in front of Boxer and he puts his hand on her waist, but he also reaches back with his left hand and holds Krista Now's waist too. So they're all dancing as a trio.
Yeah.
And had things gone a different way for that mega blimp thingamabobamajiggy, things could have been fun.
Yeah, this would have gone from Southland Tales to Wild Things at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nora Dunn, who played Cindy Pinzicki in this one. So she's the kind of the mastermind behind the neo-Marxists and, your rebellion, if you will, if you're looking at this from it is part 4, but the first of a series for Southland Tales. Your thoughts on Nora Dunn in this?
She's perfect in this. She she kind of reminds me of Joan Cusack in Grosse Pointe Blank a bit. The way she's yelling like, well, don't tell me about blah, 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 with the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, cool. I can get behind this. But even just how calm, she's like, I wasn't going to do this today, but, for you, I'm willing to do this. I'm about to tase you in the balls. And just how nonchalant she does it, and how she said, and just keeps the conversation going with Lara Kett. If you have not watched Southland Tales, you must watch Southland Tales. Don't be a douchebag.
This podcast episode brought to you by the subliminal soundings of Mr. Sean Faust.
Buy my song Status Quo Radio and watch that. And watch Southland Tales. Gin Asylum.
Please do not adjust your speaker. There is nothing wrong with the show you are listening to. But I think the thing too is that she brings this like literally around, find out kind of attitude about her
absolutely.
character. And it's so like almost dispassionate. And from as someone who comes over from Saturday Night Live, and there's a bunch of Saturday Night Live actors that came across in this, again, jumping at a typecast, Nora Dunn handles this like a Pro Bowler carrying the ball all the way to the end zone. It's fantastic.
I'm with you on that. I'm also with you on the Saturday Night Live cast that's in this, all stepping out of their comfort zones.
Oh, yeah. And I think one knock on this film, because there's still a few, again, we could talk about everyone in this goddamn film, but this is a massive cast and there's a lot of characters and it's not long enough to get to know all the characters. So did you find with as many people as there are in this, and seemingly they're all very important to the roles and to the overall story, did you find yourself getting lost with as many characters as are introduced in this film?
Not at all, because, it's one of those things, if you pay close enough attention to the dialogue, they are all serving their purpose. Would I like a longer version to really flesh them out? Of course. I really like this movie. I'm willing to watch a longer version of this. Like, I wouldn't watch a longer version or the rest of the movie of Ip Man 2 at all. This one, I'd like to see them fleshed out more, but, the meat of the story is still there. So Amy Poehler and Wood Harris, they have a thing they're going to do. It gets screwed up by the teacher with the high school high.
Yeah. Oh dear God, yes.
He was really. I had never seen him in a role like that. By the way.
Yeah. No. It's there are so many actors in this, but since you mentioned Amy Poehler and Wood Harris playing this couple who are working with the neo-Marxists who are supposed to put on this very loud fight in order to be able to have Officer Taverner come in and fake kill them or whatever the case may be. Like, again, a little convoluted. How good was their bad acting in this? Because they're supposed to be bad actors in this.
Wood Harris's reactions to everything she's saying is so good. And the fact that nobody's even watching them and they're still acting like that is phenomenal. Even like going down to the whole they explain why they're wearing the prosthetics too, because somebody might recognize them from reading their poetry. Like, yeah, I'm going to recognize you from words that I've read about you. So there's also that, what's the word I'm looking for when you're full of yourself? Not ego. Not self. There's that narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
But man, they're bad acting. And I got a feeling because Poehler is so good at improv, she's phenomenal at improv, that I got a feeling that Richard Kelly was like, all right, here's what you two need to do. Just go for it.
Yeah. But then you mentioned John Lovitz who comes in and all of a sudden, like literally, like if Clint Eastwood was on Saturday Night Live, that's kind of what you got out of John Lovitz.
That's kind of eerily accurate.
Like, you're right. And again, it's one of those things where, and this is probably what's really threw people for a loop, is that these are actors that you're expecting something and you get the exact opposite of what they are. I need to bring up someone who I'd never seen their filmographies. I didn't even know that this person was an actor before this film. Michelle Durrett, who played Starla von Luft. This is the U.S. ident worker who was constantly eating cheesies all the time and was obsessed with the idea of Jericho Kane. Again, this was one of those characters that kind of came out of the blue. Like all of a sudden she has this copy of the film script that that Boxer is trying to get made in some weird kind of, I don't know, Tommy Wiseau kind of pitch session. Your thoughts on Starla von Luft as played by Michelle Durrett?
Actually, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is on the beach. But just that from that first scene, you got pinwheels behind those eyes, like doo 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 doo, just going there. But she also really made me like Jones for a bag of cheese doodles, and they looked so good, or crunchy, whatever the hell they are. But man, God, I'm kind of hungry for them now. Now I think about it. But,
you gotta get that big Utz tub of like cheese balls going.
Oh God, oh dude, son of a bitch. Yes, I do. I totally do. I also kind of like how throughout the film, like it's revealed that everybody has a copy of The Power. And everybody's been reading The Power. And I like how this book, his script, The Power, is about, how the world ends. Have you read the book, The Power?
I have never read The Power. All I've done is watch Southland Tales.
Okay, well, no. The book, The Power, is a completely different thing.
Oh, really?
And Amazon actually has a series based on it, but I don't think it got picked up, so it's only like the first third of the book. Really, really solid book, and it's also kind of about the end of the world. Anyway, so the fact that, like, she's the first person to let him know that she's read the script, and she's like, oh, I'm on this, and she gets into character, and she calls him and expects him to get into character. That's why at the end, when somebody else mentions having a copy of the script, he's just like, huh? Like, everybody has this?
I need to point out that this is Michelle Duret's cinematic debut.
Wow, what a way to say hello, world.
But she was only ever in one other film afterwards, and that was in 2009's The Box, also written and directed by Richard Kelly, starring Cameron Diaz. So the thing is, Starla von Luft is an absolutely fascinating character. It just seemed that turn kind of came out of nowhere, and then it ended rather abruptly. Thanks, Justin Timberlake. But
well, no, it's the fanaticism of, like, she's a fanatic for Jericho Kane, not for Boxer Santoro. But she knows that Boxer Santoro is going to be Jericho Kane. So she's reading the script and falling in love with this character. So much so that she wants to perform fellatio on him on a beach.
Yeah.
Or she's going to kill herself. Which is, that's clearly a non-selfish person in one aspect and a completely selfish person in the other aspect. The message here, kids, is don't, please... There's always help, and you can always call somebody. That's a really important message I should get out to people.
Yes. But if someone with a gun says drop your pants, you drop your pants.
Yeah, but is it going to, but the fact that Boxer gets into character.
Yeah. But it's
as Jericho Kane, and that's the only time he really acts like The Rock, except for one other scene.
Yeah. But
he's supposed to. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
That's okay.
But he's supposed to.
The interesting thing, though, is that when Dwayne Johnson is acting as Jericho Kane, he finds himself in these situations, and then something happens, like John Lovett's killing that couple, or like Justin Timberlake killing Starla von Luft, and all of a sudden, it's almost like Boxer comes back in to the scene, and then the finger tapping starts, and he realized it's almost like he went from like being Jericho Kane, and then all of a sudden happens, and it's like, oh shit, what did Jericho get me into now? It's almost like he's playing two characters. So Starla von Luft actually makes Dwayne Johnson a better actor in this by her presence.
That entire explanation that you just gave sounds like it was written by Richard Kelly, because you just totally weaved in and out. I mean, you made perfect sense because I was paying attention. But you did that. Did you also go through the time rift?
I can neither confirm nor deny that a time rift was traversed through. One more actor to talk about. Wallace Shawn, who played Baron von Westphalen. Your thoughts on the Baron?
That's perfect casting. That is perfect casting. The fact that guy doesn't understand the movie he was in just shows, like, man, you knew your part. And I loved that.
I'm going to have to ask you this, though. And again, this falls into the preconceived notions of seeing an actor on screen and expecting something. But anytime Wallace Shawn was on screen, how much did you want to scream at the screen, say the word inconceivable?
Oh, and there's one scene where he almost says it. I'm like, oh, wait, oh, he didn't say it.
He didn't say the thing. He didn't say the thing.
Well, see, like, now you keep bringing up expectations, which is another reason why people don't like certain kinds of movies or certain movies, because they go in with expectations and they don't know how to surrender their ego. And it's ego. It's like, it's got to be what I want it to be. No.
Yeah.
Enjoy it for what it is, not what you're expecting. So I don't really go into anything with expectations anymore, because I used to, and I found myself very disappointed at times, where now I'm like, well, just let it be what it's going to be. I'm either going to like it or I'm not going to like it. That's why I like to know less than nothing about anything I'm going to watch.
I do have to say, this film had one of the most jaw-dropping opening scenes that I've seen in a movie in a long time. It's this whole there's a nuclear bomb that drops on Texas, and the entire scene is done basically through like birthday handy cam footage, and it's so well done.
It's 4th of July handy. It's a 4th of July party. Sorry to. I got to be
I'm,
that guy.
I'm sure someone had a birthday that day, anyways. But no, the fact that it's all done in this found footage, handy cam style stuff, and it's just like, this is stark, like really.
Well, let me ask you a question. How did that video camera survive?
That's there are things in this film that you have to sit there and go, huh. How did that
they
not
weren't.
happen?
I don't think they were in the blast radius, but maybe they were just outside the blast radius, and then people went in there to, what happened? Let's do our investigation. They came across that, like, oh, what was going on? So I was just being a dick.
But it does raise a few questions. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that it does survive. It's one of those things where the found footage style opening, and then you have this like montage that kind of sets up the world that became for the next 2 years till you get to 2008 and the world that we're in now. But the thing is, there's a lot of these different things that are going around in this story. There's a lot going on in this, and it almost feels like this film would have been better served in a series type format and allow yourself the ability to kind of weave in and out of some of those stories. If Richard Kelly ever wanted to revisit the world of Southland Tales or something like it, there are enough streamers out there that I'm sure would throw money at him in order to be able to create that.
I would love it, but that cast, I think part of the magic of that movie is that cast stepping out of what people expect.
You say it so pleasantly.
It's just I'm tired of people's ego just if you didn't like it because it didn't do what you thought it should do, well, go talk to somebody.
But the interesting thing is that if given the opportunity, I wonder if he would actually come back and do it, because he has written and or directed and or produced like a number of fantastic films. I love Domino. Domino is fantastic. He only wrote it, but it's great, right? Obviously, this, we're talking about it. It's all good. I have yet to see The Box. And of course, everyone's still talking about Donnie Darko, right? But it's one of those things where you have to wonder if, given the opportunity, would he ever create a series for a streamer?
Well, his original idea for this was he wanted 3 graphic novels to lead up to the movie. And it was a very short run. If you try to find a copy of that, it's really expensive. And then he wanted something to come after it. And he also wanted to do more chapters in the movie than the studio allowed him.
Yeah, well,
you mentioned Domino. I'm going to give you some nerdy stuff because I'm a big fan of a certain part of American history.
Mm-hmm.
So Domino Harvey is the daughter of an actor named Lawrence Harvey, who played William Barrett Travis in John Wayne's The Alamo. Also broke his foot in a scene, and you never see him wince. He just carried on with the scene until it was done.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder. I wonder if someone out there, or if he's got that idea that he wants to put out. I would love to see it. I would just
do a book series. Make a book series.
Why not? Right? Also, admittedly, you see like the part 4. It's like, oh, so we're Star Warsing this. Okay.
You know what we haven't brought up yet? The car commercial.
Oh, dear God.
The very surreal car commercial.
I remember watching this, and I think it was actually at that point that my wife came down, and like just out of the blue, right? And she comes down and she sees this commercial on the TV, and she's like, "The f*** are you watching?"
the car commercial, it kind of comes out of nowhere, but it makes sense in the grand scheme of the story. I gotta mention another Saturday Night Live alumni, though, and that's Sherry O'Terry.
Yes.
All she really brings to her performance from SNL is some of that manic stuff that like she did with the cheerleading thing with Will Ferrell. She brings a little of that manic behavior to it, but one of her first lines is talking about everybody should be doing more cardio. Like everybody would feel better about themselves, or the world would be a better place if people would just do more cardio, when she's talking to Connor McLeod. Her performance, that entire movie, while she's in it, is excellent. And it's like Sherry O'Terry with some of that mania, but just not too much of it.
Yeah. And we also haven't really talked about Kevin Smith either. You can barely recognize that it's Kevin Smith behind that beard at all. But all of a sudden it's like, here's this guy and he seems to be like the mastermind behind so much. And we barely got to see him.
I think that was the idea, though. And I think that was making fun of the guy in The Matrix Reloaded, the creator, or whatever the hell he was called. So I think that was making fun of that. Plus, I knew it was Kevin Smith when I heard his voice, but also that was the period of time where he just called everybody sir. Like, so when he's talking to Boxer, he ends the sentence with sir. Like, it's like, oh, well, if I had any doubts, you've just confirmed that you are Kevin Smith, in fact.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, like, the minute you say that, instantly I'm remembering the entire An Evening with Kevin Smith DVD. And, yep, exactly.
With the Prince story and the Bruce Willis story. What a great DVD.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good. I'm going to ask you, because we know you like the film. I like the film. It's all good. The critics obviously didn't. That's why we're here. And the audience is kind of middling on it. So I'm going to ask you to look at this film very critically. And if you could change one thing in Southland Tales that might make it more, I don't want to say accessible, but to make it better for the audience that were left with kind of scratching their heads, is there anything that you would change in this film?
Probably a disclaimer at the beginning of the movie saying, drop expectations, be intelligent. No, I would like to see the extended cut before I think about that, because I know that there's some things I wanted fleshed out, but nothing got dragged out, which I also enjoy. So I think there just could have been more of it. But the problem is people weren't getting The Rock. Can you smell what The Rock is cooking? They weren't getting Buffy. They weren't getting Booger. We haven't even talked about him being in that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. The cast
I'm sorry, huge. What's his name? I Curtis Armstrong. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm not going to call him Booger. Curtis Armstrong and Bai Ling, who has not aged.
No.
Bai Ling is just, if you look up her IMDb, it just gives her date of birth, not a year. She looks exactly the same as she did in The Crow.
Yeah, no. But to the same token as well, I mean, I also watched her in Johnny and Clyde. And I don't ever want to watch that movie ever again. Never.
I still need to see. She's in a sequel of a movie that you and I did. I think it was the first it was the first episode I ever did with you. She's in the sequel with Tommy Wiseau.
Samurai Cop.
Part 2, yeah.
You know, we're going to have to revisit that because
I haven't seen it yet, so I've got to get on that.
Okay, so now we know what your next poison is going to be. So there's no getting around that one. That's going to happen, and you know it's going to happen. I'm so sorry that it's going to happen, but it's going to happen.
I'm not. I love Samurai Cop, and I already know like it's a movie that knows what the first one was, so it tries to be bad. Don't give a there's just a couple things I got to mention too. I loved Connor McLeod's performance in this movie. He's not in it a lot, but I think that's to the film's benefit and his benefit. And I'm not saying that like he's a actor or anything like that, but he just talks like this enough. And like you've got him. That's fine. And he's responsible for your other show's name-ish. I mean, the words are different.
Yes. But ever so slightly. Just enough to avoid that copyright.
But I really like him in that. But I'm going to tell you, my MVP of this movie is not just Moby, because I loved Moby's score, but whoever was in charge, the music producer, whoever was in charge of finding the right song for each moment, and especially with Wave of Mutilation, the UK version from the Pixies. I love that version of that song so much. And just the entire soundtrack of that movie is great.
Oh yeah, no, it sucks you right in, and there's really no escape from it. I may surprise you a little bit, or at least, maybe not you, but I may surprise the listeners a little bit with my MVP, because it's not one of the main cast, but it is, in fact, Nora Dunn. There was just something about her presence on the screen where it's like, when she's on, badassery will ensue, and it feels so natural coming from her that it allows you to not have any preconceived notions of what you want out of a Nora Dunn performance. It fits like a glove. Sean, thank you so much for this. Now, please let our listeners know about what you're up to, where they can find you on the interwebs, and where they can get your music.
A cool thing to do is watch Southland Tales. It would make you enjoy this episode so much more. Just go to the Linktree thing, link.tr or linktr.ee/Sean Faust Music. Links to all my stuff is there. Please start the year off. You got Amazon gift cards for Christmas. Buy my music on Amazon. That would be really cool of you. 1 million copies of Gin Asylum. We're still going for this goal. It's important. So please, you can find me playing around the tri-state area of the United States, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, doing the solo thing, or with Slippery and Wet New Jersey, the country's longest running, most authentic tribute to Bon Jovi. And I'm not saying that because I'm in the band. I wasn't in the band for a long time. And now I'm back. Why? Because good things are happening, my friend, and I need to jump on the train. And people, just be good to yourselves. If you got coal in your stocking for Christmas, you probably deserved it. That lower back pain you're feeling, it's because you went into something with preconceived notions of what it should be. Just, people, heads, remove them from asses, enjoy things for what they are, not what you think they should be and should have, okay? But, of course, always, thank you for supporting It's Not That Bad. Thank you for supporting There Can Only Be One. While I'm at it, I got to say, thank you for supporting Brian as well on the Pantheon Podcast Network with my weekly mixtape. Listen to every single episode of this show, by the way, because you're going to find some gems that you might not have heard of if you're not listening to It's Not That Bad. Lots of gems, like Samurai Cop or Southland Tales, if you haven't watched it. And of course, leave Jason a 5-star review. The 5-star reviews really help the shows. It really helps boost the algorithm. So do the right thing, folks, and support this incredible show.
John, thank you so much for this. And dear listeners, well, you guys know the drill. If there's a movie out there that you think is unfairly maligned or is just so bad that there is no way in Southland that we can find anything good to say about it, hit us up on social media at Not That Badcast, or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you check out our brand spanking new merch shop. Another way that you can actually support the show.
Do it.
Right? Until next time, he's Sean, I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is It's Not That Bad, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.